Hello, today is Friday, October 25th, and welcome to episode 377 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. I'm NSI Advisory Board member Lester Munson, just got promoted. Hooray for me. I'm joined today by NSI's Deputy Executive Director, Martha Miller, NSI CTC Fellow, Jeffrey Wells, and NSI Senior Fellow, Andy Kaiser. Today, we're going to talk about several news items from the last couple of days. First, the Washington Post reported a day or two ago that North Korean troops, perhaps 3,000 of them, are now in Russia, collaborating with Russian forces with respect to the invasion of Ukraine that's been going on for almost 3 years now. One question might be, is the presence of North Korean troops in Russia an indication that Russia is winning or that Russia is losing? We'll talk about that a little bit. A report in the Wall Street Journal just in the last few hours that Russia is giving targeting information to Houthi rebels through the government of Iran. Let's recall that Houthi rebels are targeting commercial shipping in the Red Sea. They've attacked 100 ships. They've sunk 2 of them. They have captured 1. They've caused the diversion of a significant portion of world maritime trade, at least for some time. And of course, are being attacked appropriately by the U.S. Navy and other maritime forces trying to stop those Houthi attacks. And now, just in the last day or so, Fox News is reporting that the intelligence community is recommending to the Defense Department that Ukraine not be allowed to strike deeper into Russia, as the risks would outweigh the benefits. Martha, a lot going on here. A lot of this is about Russia and how the administration is responding to the threat Russia poses to our interests and values around the world, its malevolent invasion of Ukraine, its attempt to distract us by supporting all of these other violent activities. What are your thoughts about how the U.S. government, how the Biden administration is approaching the situation?
Well, I think making this announcement about long-range missiles is missing the mark. I think showing a sign of retreat and weakness in the face of this information about North Korean soldiers being in Russia to train, and also with this new information made public about sharing of targeting information through Iran to the Houthis is it's a sign of weakness, which is par for the course for this administration, unfortunately. I do hope that both candidates who are running for president would take a stronger stance on this. And I think in this overall situation, Russia is not only trying to offset battlefield weaknesses in Ukraine, but also stretching the West across multiple regions. So I think we need to recalibrate our defense posture to counter this multi-front strategy. And we need to beef up our defense modernization. We need to take steps to ensure that we can meet these challenges, and quickly.
So you see the challenge as extensive and across the board and extremely significant.
I do.
Jeffrey, I want to ask you in particular about the presence of North Korean troops in Russia. Is this an indicator Russia is winning or losing in Ukraine?
Les, I am so glad that you asked this question. And, it's going to bring me back to the start of the week where I quoted the talking heads and saying, hold tight, we're in for nasty weather because they're burning down the house. And I think that this is a sign of weakness, but also a desperation and some cunning. And I think someone in the Kremlin has found a copy of Machiavelli's The Prince and has picked it up and started reading it. And as Machiavelli might have said in this situation, the contest of ambition is not the most righteous who will succeed. but those most willing to adjust their sails to the tempest. And if the house must burn, let it burn, but let it be your enemies trapped in its ruins. And I argue that the rules-based order here is one iteration of a power structure that has grown weak, not just the United States, but globally, and is vulnerable to those willing to bypass norms in favor of results. And the old rules are only as strong as those who are willing to enforce them. And I don't see anyone enforcing them. And when the enforcers falter, prudenza or pragmatic wisdom demands a new strategy. And this convergence of fringe nations, with Russia, they're all sanctioned, isolated, and aligned through necessity. I think it's a predictable response to overreach by the more dominant powers, and we've kind of overreached by just thinking that because we have power, that we can control this. And I would caution against underestimating Putin and these alliances because they are formed out of desperation, and they're a potent motivator. They're transactional and they are brittle, but they can still achieve devastating results when wielded strategically. The stakes here are very high, and they truly are burning down this house.
Andy, can you talk about your views of the Western alliance, the alliance of democracies, people who believe in rule of law at this point, with respect to several things? Some of the things Jeffrey said about our unwillingness to enforce our own standards around the globe, and these kind of marginal figures coming together to really challenge it. We've got a commander-in-chief here in the U.S. who is clearly not at full capacity. He's not even in good enough condition to run for re-election. We're seeing a new leader in Japan who's saying nice things about China. We're seeing some of our European friends who normally take a more robust position on things not looking all that robust. What are your thoughts about the United States leadership here and our friends?
Yeah, I do think the world is sort of missing, a Churchill, a Reagan. And it's not just here in the United States. I mean, you see weakened leadership in Paris and Berlin and in London, frankly. And so, I do think Putin's perfectly willing to push the envelope, in Ukraine and with Iran, in the Middle East, in Africa, in the U.S., where he's still conducting pretty aggressive information operations against the 2024 election. He clearly wasn't deterred the last 2 times or 3 times. And, perhaps more concerningly, with the North Korea situation, he's very publicly cited this new security treaty that he has signed. That sure got the South Koreans' attention. Last, and I start to worry that alliances of the present could lead to some type of broader conflict, just as alliances of the past did. Certainly, what happened when what we saw in World War I, to some extent World War II. So it's a very troubling time, a very concerning time. We obviously have a major U.S. presidential election that is a major distraction to Washington policymakers as well. So that lack of leadership, makes all of us on this call, I know, very nervous.
Yeah, well said. I from my own view, I think of the weird Obama posture of leading from behind, which that administration never really seemed to say was not their actual policy. So they've been labeled with that. I think we've got losing from behind. This administration seems unwilling to take any decisive action that would actually lead to a victory in the field, whether it's with respect to the Houthis, whether it's support for Israel in its fight against terrorist organizations, whether it's allowing Ukraine to do the things that are necessary to actually change the calculus with respect to Russia that could lead to a reasonable settlement of that war. We're not willing to let them operate from a position of strength. And so this kind of is all coming together now, and our adversaries notice it and are acting accordingly. And I was really hoping this could be a fun Friday episode. I think it's kind of a fraught Friday episode. And the doom and gloom of those who say, there's an axis of evil or a new alliance of folks opposed to our interests. Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea that seems to be becoming more and more true every day. And I don't think we're actually taking the steps necessary to do something about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Senator, if I can interject real quick, Senator
Please
Rubio
do.
has an interesting line about how this class of national security folks in particular are managing America's decline very effectively.
Yeah.
And that's sure what it feels like is happening to me.
Indeed. Okay.
Happy Halloween.
That's a wrap. Thanks so much to Devlin Burney, Claude Jennings, and the NSI staff for their help in producing today's episode. Join us again on Monday, October 28th, for another episode of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you smart fast on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. Fault Lines is on YouTube, so check out our channel for a video of today's episode. If you like what you heard or saw, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Have a terrific weekend.